Sing to the colors that float in the light, hurrah for the yellow and blue. Yellow the stars as they ride through the night, and reel in a rollicking crew. Yellow the fields where ripens the grain, and yellow the moon on the harvest wain. Hail, hail to the colors that float in the light, hurrah for the yellow and blue.
Thank you, good night, and go blue!
Good morning. Thank you for joining us at the 70th Annual University of Michigan Congressional Breakfast. I'm Ryan Eaton, and Andy Colares and I are excited to be the co-chairs again this year and to continue this great tradition. Even though we cannot be together in person this year, I'm very grateful that we're able to gather Wolverines from all over the country virtually. I wanted to start by thanking our generous sponsors to support local DC area students attending the University of Michigan. This year's sponsors include, at the Victors level, DTE Energy and Rocket Mortgage. At the Blue level, Ford Motor Company and Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. At the Maize level, Amway, Bobby and Sam Chappelle, Delta Airlines, Fox Sports Big Ten Network, Henry Ford Health System, the Lynn Shapiro Snyder and Jeffrey Snyder Family Foundation Incorporated, and Viacom CBS. And at the Champions level, Consumer Energy and DTE Energy. I'll turn it over to my co-chair, Andy, to run through what today's agenda will be.
Well, thanks, Ryan. My name is Andy Colares. I'm the Director of Federal Affairs at DTE Energy. DTE is so proud again to be involved with this event. I want to just say thank you again to the sponsors for supporting this event, especially this year, which every year helps to sustain and grow the passion for the university in the DC community and our shared commitment to the mission of the university and to that of the UMDC Club. We've got a great agenda on tap for you all today. And shortly, we're going to be hearing remarks from President Mark Schlissel, and we will hear from our keynote speaker, Congressman Ted Deutch. Following the Congressman's remarks, UMDC President Nicole Taylor will join us, and she will hand the mic over to the David and Meredith Kaplan men's basketball head coach, Juwan Howard, for some extra special remarks. But to get us started this morning, I'd like to introduce Steve Grafton, President and CEO of the Alumni Association of the University of Michigan. Steve came to Michigan in 1994 from Mississippi State University, where he was Executive Director of the Alumni Association. Before that, he worked for the late US Senator John Stennis. A former member of the Council for Advancement and Support of Education's Board of Trustees, Steve chaired the Commission on Alumni Relations, and he has also been a district director, faculty member for numerous case conferences, and editor of the alumni section in the Handbook of Institutional Advancement. Welcome, Steve, and over to you.
Thank you, Andy, and good morning to everyone. It's great to see you all here as I can look at your faces on the screen, at least some of you. I want to thank you all for attending. You know, it's interesting that this time, just a little over a year ago, we were gathered at the Hyatt Capitol Hill for this congressional breakfast, and none of us really had any idea about what was to come over the next year. COVID was just a question mark at that moment. We were just learning about it. In some ways, the time since then it seemed like really only days. In other ways, it seems like decades that we've experienced so much in this last year. And I have to tell you that candidly, I was not optimistic about what this breakfast might be like virtually this year. I wasn't sure about the participation. I was hopeful, but not certain. But let me just tell you that the U of M Club of Washington, D.C. has done such a tremendous job and proved me wrong. I'm happy to say we expect somewhere around 350 participants from over a dozen states who will participate in this year. And more importantly, this event again will raise tremendous financial support for students who deserve it at the University of Michigan. And so I want to say a special thanks this year to Nicole Taylor, who's the president of the U of M Club of Washington, D.C., and also to Alana Kuhn. Alana is vice president of the club, but more importantly, the chair of the Congressional Breakfast, and has just done a tremendous job. I thank you, Alana, for what you've done. Ryan Eaton and Andy Kalors, who you've already heard from as our sponsorship chairs, have made sure that the support is there for these scholarships. And I want to thank the entire Board of Governors of the Washington Club. But I also just want to thank all of you who are participating, all of the alumni who have joined us, not just from Washington, but from other places, and are showing your continuing commitment to and support for the University of Michigan and its mission. And so thank you so much for being a part of this today. I think you will enjoy it. I think you will gain a lot from it, but I know that others will gain from your participation and support. Some of the people who are with us are university leaders who've carved out the time this morning to make sure that they're part of this. I'm happy to recognize that our newest University of Michigan Regent, Sarah Hubbard, is joining us for this breakfast this morning. And while she's new as a regent, Sarah is certainly not new to the university, a longtime supporter and involved in so many ways, a volunteer and a great alumna. And so Sarah, welcome, we're glad to have you. From the U of M Dearborn, Chancellor Domenico Grasso is with us. We have Vice President for Communication, Callie Michaels, representing the university, also the Vice President for Research, Rebecca Cunningham, and our new Vice President for Government and Community Relations, Chris Cole. Glad to have all of you with us this morning. And then you can see on the screen, you can see the members of the Congressional delegation who are joining us for this call this morning. Really grateful that all of you made time. I know it's not easy these days. It's never easy, but particularly in these times. And I'd like to especially thank the representative of the University of Michigan, Michigan 12 Representative Debbie Dingle, for joining us. Debbie, it's great to have you with us this morning. I want to call out and make special note of a member of the Alumni Association's Board of Directors, who is also Congresswoman from New York 6th District, Grace Ming. Grace, it's good to have you with us this morning. And of course, I want to thank our speaker this morning from Florida 22nd District, Ted Deutch. Ted, since Ted was elected, he's been so committed to this breakfast, has been with us every time. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you this morning. And so thank you for being with us. It just is lining up to be a great breakfast, and it's a great tribute to the resiliency of the University of Michigan family. And I say there are a lot of ways in which our connection with each other has been challenged by this pandemic. But I am also really happy to say that the University of Michigan family has not given into it, and we still have stayed connected and supportive of our institution, and things continue to move forward despite it. So thank you all for being here, and I'm happy now to be able to introduce the 14th president of the University of Michigan, who happens to be the first physician scientist to lead our institution, which is really a great benefit to the university at this moment, because his expertise is immunology, and that has been really helpful during this time of a pandemic. Mark Schlissel came to the Michigan in 2016 from Brown University, where he was provost. He had previously served as Dean of Biological Sciences in the College of Letters and Science at the University of California, Berkeley, in addition to a number of other positions. He did his undergraduate work at Princeton University and earned both his MD and PhD degrees at Johns Hopkins University of Medicine. He completed residency training in internal medicine at Hopkins Hospital and conducted postdoctoral research at MIT's Whitehead Institution. Under President Schlissel's leadership, Michigan remains the nation's top public university in research productivity, and is consistently ranked as #1, or at least among the top public universities in the nation and indeed in the world. So I really appreciate his leadership and his friendship, and I hope you'll join me in welcoming a scientist, a physician, importantly for this time, an immunologist, and a very respected academic leader, but most importantly today, our president, Mark Schlissel. President Schlissel.
Hi, Steve. Thanks very much for that very kind introduction. It's really great to see distinguished members of Congress and staff and alumni and friends coming together for this annual event. We're really pleased to be able to maintain these connections between our DC alumni and friends and the university. As has been pointed out, the 2020 Congressional Breakfast was one of the last large events before the pandemic turned our nation upside down. I never thought I would grow to miss the Washington, DC Hyatt Regency. On behalf of U of M, you have my gratitude for your tireless dedication to your work as we confront the many challenges we must face as a nation. I'd like to thank, of course, the UM Club of Washington, DC for hosting this breakfast for 70 years and for their support of student scholarships. A Michigan education is affordable because of efforts like yours. Many people don't know that for in-state undergraduates, need-based financial aid results in about 27% who pay no tuition whatsoever. I'd like to recognize all of the alumni from our Dearborn and Flint campuses, as well as Ann Arbor, and all of the sponsors of our annual breakfast. Your support helps students from the Washington, DC area attend the University of Michigan. A special shout out to all the students here this morning, including those in our Michigan and Washington program. This year, students are studying virtually, and I thank those who sponsored a student as part of their registration for this event. And finally, I want to acknowledge two individuals who you've known very well over the years, Cynthia Wilbanks and Michael Waring. Both of them have retired from U of M after tremendous service to our university. I know Cynthia at least is watching right now. In that light, I'm pleased to welcome our new Vice President for Government Relations, Chris Kolb, is attending his first breakfast, I believe. He's here along with Christina Coe, the new Executive Director of our Office of Federal Relations, who many of you know well. Joining us very soon is our new Director of Federal Relations for Research, will be Neil Canfield, whose experience includes working in the Michigan delegation for Representative Huizenga, the National Science Foundation, and the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. Welcome, new colleagues. As I mentioned earlier, a year ago, I was with you in person for what was one of my last trips before pausing travel for the pandemic. We've faced much together as a nation and as a university in the months since. Usually this time of year, my wife Monica and I have front row seats to view a campus that is bustling with activity. Our diag is normally teeming with students enjoying warmer weather, longer days, and the traditional rites of spring on a university campus. One of the most profound lessons of the COVID-19 pandemic is that we must never take the joys of life and the delivery of our mission for granted. So even from a campus that is mostly empty, we remain a University of Michigan that's been able to uphold our public mission. Our students are making progress towards their degrees, both remotely and in person. Our research labs are operating at nearly full capacity, and our health system continues to provide life-saving care for COVID-19 patients, has administered over 100,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine, and stands ready to vaccinate many, many more of our patients, staff, and students. And we're all proud that this fall we'll revert to teaching most classes in person. Our residence halls will be at 80% capacity or more, and we'll have in-person dining and support services while continuing some safety precautions. We're confident we can do this because we've not seen COVID-19 transmission in our classrooms or research labs, and we're able to test students frequently. The fall plans presume access to vaccination for instructors and staff and significant numbers of our students as well. In partnership with the state and with Kroger and Meijer supermarkets, we're conducting vaccination clinics for thousands of U of M students to give them literally a shot in the arm before they head home for the summer. If the levels of vaccination exceed expectations, we'll further increase in-person activities. The pandemic has once again demonstrated the power of federally sponsored research at a top university. Michigan researchers logged $1.62 billion in research productivity during the past fiscal year, and 54% of that was supported by federal agencies. We remain the nation's top public university in research volume, and our year-over-year volume was steady despite having to shut down briefly because of the pandemic. We can all be proud that when our world needed knowledge, care, and understanding most, U of M rose to the challenge. Thanks to U of M research, we know what may cause severe illness in some COVID-19 patients. Our researchers discovered that an autoimmune antibody that's circulating in the blood can attack cells and trigger clots in arteries, veins, and microscopic vessels. In COVID-19, microscopic clots may restrict blood flow in the lungs, impairing oxygen exchange. The connection between autoantibodies and COVID-19 was unexpected. The team that made this discovery is partly funded by the National Institutes of Health and its intramural research program at the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. A U of M research team led by engineering professor Ming-Yan Liu is using tools developed through a Department of Defense grant to examine how officials at different levels of government can work together to maximize COVID-safe behavior. The grant uses game theory to explore human behavior, and our researchers are taking it up a notch by examining the complex and overlapping factors that go into human decision-making. And in news you can use, research from U of M and the University of Illinois showed that some people's willingness to reduce the spread of COVID-19 seems to be connected to their feelings about scientists rather than their political partisanship. The research found that people who express warmth toward scientists were more concerned about the impact of the virus and reported engaging in more preventative behaviors. This relationship emerged even after controlling for their political views, U of M professor of psychology David Dunning said. Early last year, Michigan Medicine stood up a special unit to accept COVID-19 patients from all around Southeast Michigan, and we were setting up a field hospital before our collective efforts to flatten the curve took hold. Michigan Medicine is also caring for patients by administering the COVID-19 vaccine. This includes a massive clinic set up in Michigan Stadium and assisting with special clinics for K-12 educators and for those who live in zip codes that have fewer resources. I'm proud that U of M is helping our state get closer to the goal line of a vaccine for every Michigander who wants one. Federal investments in research universities go a long way. I mentioned a few examples, and there are many, many more. We support the Research Investment to Spark the Economy, or RISE Act, to keep the American research enterprise driving innovation to our society, jobs to our economy, and life-saving advances to our communities. The pandemic has taken a toll on many of our research projects, and the funds included in this bill will help us cover those gaps and complete the aims of those research projects. We also recognize the need for greater investments in public health infrastructure. Our nation's ability to respond to a pandemic was tested over the past year. U of M stands ready to help ensure the societal response is faster and more effective next time. As a final note, calling for greater investments in science and research provides a natural segue to my last comments. I want to add to the many voices who've expressed congratulations to my predecessor, President Emerita Mary Sue Coleman. I know many of you worked with her when she was U of M's president and during her tenure as president of the Association of American Universities. Last month, we named the building that houses our Life Sciences Institute Mary Sue Coleman Hall. It's the first academic building on the Ann Arbor campus to be named for a woman. To me, it's a reflection of all she's done to enhance the University of Michigan and heighten the impact of America's great research universities. Thanks to President Emerita Coleman, U of M has a faculty rich in intellectual diversity, a physical campus that's the envy of our peers, and numerous academic programs that are amongst the best in the world. She believes that knowledge should be universal and that U of M must be global to fully deliver our mission. She also focused intently on economic development, forming partnerships that continue to create jobs and transform the regional and state economies. I invite all of you to stop by when you're on campus next to see Mary Sue Coleman Hall. Our Life Sciences Institute is a beacon of hope for millions of people around the world, with a mission to advance the understanding of the fundamental processes of life and to pioneer new ideas to improve human health. It's one of many programs at U of M made truly excellent by federal investment in public research universities. I very much appreciate your dedication as members of the Michigan family. Thank you all very much, and of course, go Blue. It's now my pleasure to introduce this morning's featured speaker. Congressman Ted Deutch is in his 7th term in Congress, representing Florida's 22nd district. He's a 2-time alumnus of the University of Michigan and participated in our public service internship program while a student. Currently, he's chairman of the House Ethics Committee and serves on the Foreign Affairs and Judiciary Committees. Congressman Deutch has been a frequent visitor to his alma mater, sharing his expertise at campus events and supporting future generations of public servants. Please help me welcome Congressman Ted Deutch. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you very much, President Schlissel. I appreciate the kind introduction, the wonderful report from Ann Arbor. I had always thought, President Schlissel, that I had the greatest job in the world as a member of Congress, but listening to your report from campus may have just convinced me that there may be one job even better. So kudos to you. Thank you so much for what you do. Being on a Zoom with hundreds of people as a keynote speaker is really odd. So I've been thinking about an event early in my political career where I had the unfortunate obligation of speaking immediately after my friend, Senator Cory Booker. He did what he's masterful at. He brought the crowd to its feet for a thunderous standing ovation that continued through my introduction. Now, I was aware of what the crowd was going to get from me, so I rushed on stage and just pretended that all of that applause was for me. Now we're on Zoom, everyone's on mute. I can't hear anyone, so I'm just going to keep thinking about that reception and imagine that all of you are doing that same thing. So with that said, it is really a great honor to be with you. This is such a wonderful event. It's the 70th annual UMDC Congressional Breakfast. This is always a highlight of my calendar, and I want to thank Nicole and Alana and the rest of the club officers, directors, and committee chairs for organizing today's breakfast and all of the great work and events that the DC Club does and offers throughout the year. Thanks to Steve Grafton for your leadership of the Alumni Association. It is the alumni and the connections that unite us that makes the University of Michigan so special. And Steve, I'm proud of your work and the relationship that we've developed over the years. I want to thank the amazing Michigan DC government relations team of Madeline and Christina for your great work. This is also, as the president alluded to, this is the first Michigan breakfast that I've attended without the great Mike Waring, who announced his retirement last year. Mike is a giant on the Hill. He's been a part of every achievement on behalf of the university in Washington throughout his decades of service. And I wanted to acknowledge Mike. I want to share my appreciation for my incredible colleagues, those who represent the university so well in the Michigan delegation and fellow alumni, especially my dear friend, Debbie Dingle, whom I know is watching. Thanks to her. I also want to thank my Michigan team in my office, Josh and Joel and Wendy, for their help and inspiration in pulling this together today. Look, I wish we could all be together in person, there's no doubt, but a virtual program gave us a much better shot at landing really our special guest today. That is AP and Sporting News Coach of the Year and Big Ten champion coach Juwan Howard. Meeting virtually also gives us a unique opportunity to connect across the country and across the world. And for all those states represented, some number of those states are represented by old friends and roommates of mine, many who got up really early this morning on the West Coast to watch. And I'm so grateful to everyone who's watching and participating wherever you are in our country and around the world. And whether you're joining us from DC or Ann Arbor or anywhere else, welcome. Thanks for supporting UMDC's scholarship program. It's been over a year that we've moved meetings and conferences online. And while I I certainly look forward to many happy in-person reunions that will be coming later this year. I also value the way that we've been able to connect virtually. At the start of the pandemic, I'm sure many of you shared my feelings of uncertainty and anxiety, confusion, and yes, fear. And amid that fear, I found myself reaching out to some of my best and oldest friends, and those friendships were forged in Ann Arbor. And since the beginning of the pandemic, I've been talking to my friends regularly. In fact, there are about a half dozen of us who have been meeting for Zoom calls literally every Monday night over the past year. And we commiserated over a tough and abbreviated football season. We reveled in the success of the basketball team's Big Ten championship and Elite Eight run. We remember the experiences that brought us together over 30 years ago. Skateboarding across campus, I did that. To get no dogs from Red Hot Lovers, that was even before I knew what a vegan was. Playing croquet in the Diag, we did that too. And training in the yard. The University of Michigan taught me a lot, but just as importantly, it gave me lifelong friendships that have really sustained me and so many of us during these challenging times. And I just want to be clear, among those lifelong friends that I have from Michigan is my best friend that I met on an outing to Zingerman's, and who this year, Jill and I will be celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary. That happens coming out of Michigan too, and I wanted to acknowledge Jill. The people who are watching this Zoom know that there is something unique about Michigan culture, and it's the warm feeling that you get when you come back to campus. But it's not just the milkshakes at Pizza Bob's, the chapatis at Pizza House, or singing the victors in the Big House. It's part of being a welcoming and striving and collaborative and diverse and brilliant family of students and teachers and alumni. And there's a reason that when I meet someone new, they know that the easiest way to break the ice is just to say, go blue. And there's a reason why those who didn't go to school in Ann Arbor so often, frankly, get annoyed when we can't stop talking about the University of Michigan. There's an expression popularized by Bo Schembechler that you all know. It's the notion of a Michigan man or a Michigan woman. Well, what does that mean? I think we have a perfect example today in our head basketball coach, Juwan Howard. Now, we all know and love Coach Howard. We love his dancing. We love his post moves. I especially appreciate his wife's Twitter feed. But what do I love the most about Coach Howard? What that makes him the definition of the Michigan man? Well, most of you know that Coach Howard was raised by his grandmother in Chicago, that he left Ann Arbor early for a career in the NBA, which culminated in 2 championships in the start of his coaching career with my own Miami Heat. But he promised his grandmother that he would graduate. So on flights across the country, as his fellow NBA players played cards or slept on the plane, Juwan wrote papers and he took tests. And Coach Howard returned to Ann Arbor and graduated from the University of Michigan. Promise kept. And while I appreciate the wins and championships from Coach Howard and the many, many more wins and championships that we're all looking forward to, what I admire the most about him is his devotion and his commitment to developing young men, not just their basketball skills, but guiding them as young men. If you play for Coach Howard, you're part of his family for life. And that's how I feel about my relationship with U of M. I'm part of a larger family. Getting together with my old Michigan friends this year made me think back on Big Chill director Lawrence Kasdan's 1990 commencement speech in Ann Arbor. He said, and I quote, "Your good friends from college may be the best friends you ever have. Guard those relationships like gold, work hard to maintain them. When they have a wedding, go across the country to be there. When one of them gets sloppy about keeping in touch, keep trying. And when one of them needs your help, cross the globe to give it to them. If you do that," he said, "if you work hard, your friends will become a precious touchstone in your life. And there aren't many things more valuable." Well, that was an incredible speech. You could say it went viral, but that didn't mean that it filled your Twitter feed or got millions of views on YouTube, although it probably has since. No, it meant that I printed it out. We all did, those of us who are my age, sealed it in an envelope, licked a stamp because that used to be a thing, and sent it in the mail. And as slow and tedious as sharing that speech the old-fashioned way sounds now, Kasdan lamented still that the hustle and bustle of the pre-internet age life in his address, and said, life is noisy. He said, everything we're told, everything about the way we're raised and educated and bombarded by our culture makes noise. And that noise makes it very hard to hear the ticking of our own hearts. Well, it is blindingly obvious that 2021 is a lot noisier than 1990. Today's noise is constantly ringing out from our phones, from the supercomputers we all carry around in our pockets. Today's noise is micro-targeted and it's data-driven. And what makes Michigan so special is that the community we share, the problems that we try to solve, the things that we learn all help us to listen a little bit closer to the ticking of our hearts underneath all of that noise. I want to thank President Schlissel for his commitment to amplifying the heartbeat of the University of Michigan through his initiatives focused on solving poverty, reducing carbon emissions, and saving lives from gun violence. These are problems I share with you and hope to lift up through my work in Washington. And whether it's protecting seniors from poverty and retirement, or putting price on carbon to seriously address climate change, or protecting our communities from the scourge of gun violence, the work I do here is rooted in the things that I learned 30 years ago on campus. Things I learned in classes like Jim Chafer's Urban Redevelopment and Social Justice, where I can see his lessons playing out each day in the headlines, like the awful shooting of Dante Wright in Minnesota and the inequities in our healthcare system in the pandemic. And while my work in Congress is rooted in classes that I took in my 20s, it's also aided by Michigan scholars today, like gun violence researcher Rebecca Cunningham at the Firearms Safety Among Children and Teens Consortium at Michigan. The University of Michigan is a leader because our scholars are doing the hard work to build the foundation of evidence that will help us tackle our biggest challenges. President Schlissel talked about this, but politics that fuel Washington often get in the way of solving our biggest problems because so much of the action is at the extremes rather than the middle ground. And as Kasdan pointed out in that commencement address all those years ago, he said, culture isn't interested in the large middle ground, and that's where most of us live our lives. And in the middle ground is where people sometimes succeed and sometimes fail, and where doing the best you can is what counts, where kindness and decency and courage are found in the smallest actions of people's lives. That's where we can find a life, an honorable life, a life of dignity. Well, Kasdan was right. The incredible value of that middle ground has been shown in countless ways throughout this pandemic. The brightest sources of hope over the past year have been through the ways that we showed support for one another in small and large ways alike. From frontline workers like grocery clerks and delivery drivers, gig workers going to work each day, to nurses and doctors risking their lives to save their neighbors, teachers juggling home life and a classroom of virtual students, and restaurants closing dining rooms and opening mobile meal sites to help feed their communities. And the University of Michigan has been a leader in every field of study to help support those frontline workers and improve our lives in this difficult time. From clinical outcomes to epidemiological models to engineering 3D printed touch-activated hand sanitizer dispensers, to the impact of the stress of the pandemic on substance abuse, to studying how COVID-19 impacted services for people with disabilities, the list goes on and on and on. And as of last night, there were over 1,040 articles listed in the Michigan COVID-19 related research publications database. And the scholarship that's helping the world through this crisis is part of a long history of leadership that stretches back to 1914, when the University of Michigan opened the first ever hospital designed specifically to prevent the spread of contagious disease. And that's on the site where the medical school stands today. So I want to thank everyone here for being part of the Michigan community that stoked my passion for public service, that informed my understanding of how I can make a difference, and has supported me all along my own personal journey. And as we continue to recover from the pandemic, and as I prepared for this meeting today, I'm so looking forward to returning to Ann Arbor to once again meet with students, take in concerts at Hill Auditorium, cheer along with crowds in the Big House and Chrysler, And I know that you're all committed to carrying on the long and storied legacy of the greatest university in the country, because you've felt the impact that the Maize and Blue has had on your life. And that's why I want to leave. That's why I want to leave you with thanks for your support for the UMDC Scholarship Fund and for your commitment to expanding access to the high quality education that the University of Michigan provides. I'll finish with this. When John F. Kennedy spoke from the steps of the Michigan Union at 2 a.m. in front of 10,000 students in the closing weeks of his presidential campaign in 1960, and we know that because there is a placard, there's a monument on those steps that I stepped on every single time I walked out of the Union. When he spoke late that night, first he gave Harvard a new name. He called it the Michigan of the East. He also launched the Peace Corps, and he said this. He said, "This university is not maintained by its alumni or by the state merely to help its graduates have an economic advantage in the life struggle. There is certainly a greater purpose, and I am sure you recognize it." So many of you in the Michigan Club of DC came to Washington to pursue that greater purpose that President Kennedy described. In fact, it is the recognition that the University of Michigan has given us opportunity to always seek that greater purpose. And through that pursuit and a planet made better by the ways more than 500,000 living alumni, each working toward their greater purpose by contributing to our world, that is what it means to be the leaders and best. I want to thank you again for this incredible opportunity. Congratulations to the UMDC Club, and go Blue.
Thank you, Congressman Deutsch. My name is Nicole Taylor, and I am president of the University of Michigan Alumni Club here in DC. UMDC has over 15,000 alums in the area, and while this year has been unprecedented, we still were able to connect with our alums by hosting over 50 virtual events since last year's Congressional Breakfast, which was actually our last in-person event last March. We are so grateful that all of you were able to join us virtually for this year's Congressional Breakfast. The Congressional Breakfast is UMDC's largest fundraising event of the year and allows for us to give out $65,000 in scholarships annually to local DC area students and Michigan students who come to DC through the university's Public Service Internship Program and Michigan in Washington program. I would like to thank all attendees today for your continued support to our club. I want to thank Congressman Deutsch for his speech today and his longtime support of this event and of the club, and all of the members of Congress for joining us and showing your support for the University of Michigan. I'm also grateful for the support of President Schlissel and the University of Michigan officials, and Steve Grafton and the Alumni Association for your assistance on this event and events year-round. I'm extremely thankful to our club president, Vice President Alana Kuhn for chairing this event, Ryan Eaton and Andy Colares for chairing our sponsorship efforts for this event, our club's board of governors, and all of our club's volunteers for the hard work they do for this event and all of our events throughout the year. I'd also like to thank Christina Coe, Madeline Nikaza, and David Bloom from the university's DC office for helping with this event and supporting us throughout the year, and for Mike Waring's assistance with the breakfast, even in his retirement. Our board and volunteers have worked especially hard this year, providing a virtual space for Michigan alumni to meet in DC through creative programming and outreach, including speaker events, cooking classes, podcasts and book club, community service gatherings, virtual theater outings, and career networking events. While the last year was not ideal for events, it opened up our club to host events with speakers from around the country. We put on events with Broadway stars, playwrights, and many university professors from across a variety of departments, including the Law School, College of Engineering, and School of Public Health, and 2 widely attended events with the Ford School. We also hosted a virtual euchre nights, exercise classes, trivia nights run by one of our alums, a Detroit pizza virtual cooking class with one of DC's favorite Michigan bars, and Nibble and Network career development lunch sessions across a wide variety of fields. We are always looking for volunteers to help plan these events, so please contact me if you are interested. I'd especially like to thank our sponsors and donors. Thank you for continuing to support our club this year in this virtual setting. Thanks to you, we have raised over $60,000 today to support our students. We are only able to continue our scholarship programs because of your donations, and we especially appreciate your giving during this difficult year. Because of your support, this year we have been able to increase our main scholarship, our Samuel Al-Shafal family UMDC scholarship, from $40,000 to $50,000 over 4 years to each of our scholarship recipients to help keep up with the cost of out-of-state tuition. UMDC has a very active alumni student recruitment program designed to increase the number of highly competitive and qualified students considering the University of Michigan from the DC area. This year, the DMV area had a record number of students admitted to the University of Michigan with 560. Each year, our club is awed by the high level of students that apply to our Samuel Al-Shafal Family Scholarship. The students are often leaders at their schools with extracurriculars ranging from robotics teams to performing vital research at local universities to teaching English as a second language. This year, we had 56 students from DC, Maryland, and Virginia apply for our scholarship, all with incredible credentials. Your continued support helps us make the dream of attending the University of Michigan for these students a reality. We have a short video prepared for you all that features some of our amazing recent scholarship winners as they talk about what your support means to them.
About a year ago, I wasn't even certain that I had the financial means to attend university, but because of the scholarship, not only do I get to attend university, but I get to attend the University of Michigan.
Receiving the scholarship took a lot of financial stress off of me and my family, and I was able to have a blast and completely immerse myself in my college experiences.
It is thanks to this scholarship that I am able to study musical theater at the University of Michigan. U of M has the top musical theater program in the country and has less than a 2% acceptance rate. So receiving this scholarship has truly allowed me to study at my dream school.
The scholarship has given me the ability to take advantage of the many resources at Michigan, and I've been able to receive a tremendous amount of support throughout my academic career, as well as important guidance about my future and what it holds for me.
Receiving the scholarship allowed me to not only attend my dream university, but also have amazing experiences, such as working on M-Fly SAE Aero Design and Build, and having internships at NASA and United Airlines. And now I was able to graduate and work full-time at the Boeing company in their early career rotation program.
For the past year, I've been collaborating and working directly with professors to research hiring discrimination within the labor market, as well as I've been taking very illuminating economics and computer science courses, and I've finally learned how to play euchre.
And I would like to thank everyone in the UMDC Scholarship Committee and all the club members for allowing me to afford my dream school of University of Michigan.
Thank you to the University of Michigan Alumni Club of Greater Washington, D.C. Scholarship Committee for giving me the honor of being a scholarship recipient.
I really want to encourage everyone to donate and to give another underprivileged student like me a chance at a very transformative and life-changing opportunity.
I'm so thankful to UMDC and to all the donors and potential donors. Please consider donating to this amazing club because it has truly changed my life and could also impact another student's life as well.
If anyone has the capacity to donate, this is an incredible scholarship that has given a lot of opportunities to kids like me, and one day I hope to be able to pay it forward and give another kid like me with big dreams the same opportunities.
Thank you all so, so much, and go blue.
Go blue.
Go blue.
Go blue!
Every year, we are amazed by what our scholars are able to accomplish at the university and after graduation. Some of our recent scholars are now lawyers and engineers. One of our recent scholars is starting her residency as a doctor. Our most recent graduate, Ankita, as you saw in the video, completed some incredible internships during her time at the university and is now working for Boeing. Our 2021 graduate, Will Roberts, was captain of the men's swim and dive team and was recently recognized as the Big Ten U of M swimming and diving sportsmanship honoree. Samantha participated in MPOW, a Michigan performance outreach workshop that brings performance education to youth in the greater Michigan community. All of our students have been able to access great research opportunities, volunteer work, and internships thanks to the University of Michigan community. Their experiences are possible thanks to your support at this event. If you would like to make a donation to our scholarship fund, you may do so through the link in the chat. And with that, I am excited to turn it over to our special guest this morning, David and Meredith Kaplan men's basketball coach and coach of the year, Coach Howard.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I just want to say I'm honored to be here this morning, be here with you guys. And just looking at the video, it was just, I felt a perfect segue to be a part of something special that I just listened to on hearing like a lot of the Michigan alums, of the students who was able to receive scholarships to attend a prestigious university that I was fortunate enough to attend as far as, getting a scholarship to the University of Michigan. That was truly a blessing for me and my family because, looking back to, how I grew up in the inner city of Chicago during some tough times financially, we could not afford for me to attend a prestigious university like Michigan or to attend any, two-year college. So when I look back on that experience, that was the best time of my life. So I'm very appreciative of those who have donated to help me to enjoy not only the Michigan experience, but get an education from the University of Michigan to be able to get my degree, which being one of the first of my family. I look back on that and I just look back at how, the coaches from the University of Michigan, and I'm speaking of Coach Fisher and his staff, trusted me to attend the University of Michigan and to develop the relationship that we developed over the years has been amazing. I look back on the brotherhood of the relationships of my teammates, on how the experience that we had, whether it was in South Quad or the Diag or going to football games, and the experience that we had there was awesome. Some of the relationships that I built with some of the student body that I still keep in contact with to this day has been beautiful. Now, I received a second lifeline, and my second lifeline is come full circle. Now I'm the head coach of the University of Michigan. Truly a great honor, a blessing. I know for some of you who have seen my press conference when I was introduced as the head coach of the University of Michigan, you saw the emotions, the tears. That was because it was the tears of joy and excitement, thinking back to the impact that the university had on my life and my development. And then now for me getting the opportunity to impact these young men in many ways, not just, yes, basketball, obviously, we look at that as being a head basketball coach and you're able to teach them basketball, but I'm able to do more than that. And that's why it's been great. And my why for doing it is because, I've always thought of what, Steve Fish and his staff and other coaches on the high school level, NBA level have impacted me in my life, and what has been with my development, how it's really been great throughout my lives of looking back to how they've touched me, but now I get an opportunity to do the same and give back to the university as well as to these young men. So I am just truly blessed in many ways, and I'm very thankful to have this opportunity to do something so special like this. So I know some of you have watched this past season, and it was an amazing run during a pandemic, which was very difficult to do. I commend our young men on how they represented the university as well as their families during these tough, challenging times. I also commend our staff. I couldn't have done it without amazing assistant coaches, support staff, Ward Manuel, Daryl Conway, and also President Schlissel for supporting us and giving us all the means, as well as the CDC on teaching us, how to navigate through a pandemic. The star of it all was our trainer. Our trainer, wow, Alex Wong was amazing in keeping us in tune and informed of all the information, learning the new, and then our players, of course, buying in. And looking back to the season, it was a great run. Yes, we all hated the way how it ended. We wanted to continue to keep playing. Wanted to be, one of the last teams standing on Monday and raising that trophy and cutting down those nets. But I felt we won just in general because of how our guys were able to navigate through some tough, difficult times and still be able to have a season and do it in a healthy way. And so I'm so proud to say this. Our players are the reason why we were so successful. And yes, we get individual accolades, and I wouldn't have been able to get a Coach of the Year award without our players trusting in me and believing in our culture, but also believing in the University of Michigan. So as I look back on, Big Ten championship, Elite Eight run in the NCAA championship, it's been a blessing. And I also wanted to let our players know that, and I shared that with them after our game and after our loss versus UCLA, on how they represented the Block M and also the family name on the back of their jersey. So in closing, I want to say thank you guys for allowing me to be a part of this breakfast. Looking back to my experience in Washington, D.C., I first got drafted in 1994, fifth pick in the draft, spent 7 years in the DMV area, enjoyed every minute of living in D.C. And I just told Hunter Dickinson as well as Terrence Williams Jr. that the University of Michigan alumni is all over the world. And one of the largest alumni is in their hometown, in their backyard in the DC area. As we get out of this pandemic, we definitely have to connect these two young men and their families on what the Michigan family experience is all about in the Washington, DC area. So thank you again for allowing me to be a part of this, and go Blue.
Thank you, Coach Howard, and thank you all for joining us this year. We hope to see you next year in person on March 9th in 2022 to celebrate the 71st annual Congressional Breakfast. With that, we will conclude the meeting. Go Blue.